All righty. Well, we're couple minutes after the hour here. We'll dive in and get started now. Hoping everyone's having a great day so far and is ready to learn about some hot water systems. My name is Zach Allison with ATS. I'm the National Accounts Manager for us and Manager of Market Development team. So my team works with engineers and performs your typical lunch and learns, as well as webinars and project assistance, so helping size water heaters like we are today, or any of our plumbing fixture selections, get you set up with masters on our system. If you're unfamiliar with the spec tool system, we'll also provide walkthroughs and make sure you have your whole team set up there. We have a series of online training sessions available on our website as well. As you can see, as you logged in, this session is being recorded, so this will be hosted there. In that sense, as with many other webinars and online sessions that you've probably been attending, everyone's muted upon entry. However, during the session, I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A and chat field. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to bring them up. At the end of the demo, as long as we have a little bit of time, I'll be trying to show how you can find the products that we're talking about today on the ATS spec tool. So you can go to www.atsspec.com and find any of the products that we're discussing. With me today is Will Kublis, District Sales Manager for A.O. Smith in Canada, based out of Ontario. He's a longtime colleague of mine, as A.O. Smith and ATS have been partners for a long time now. And he's a great expert, wealth of experience when it comes to sizing water heaters. So today we're going to walk through sizing commercial domestic hot water systems. As you see, we're going to go through some case studies and some examples, and we'll walk through both the official sizing guides and probably some of your wealth of experience and some of the tips and tricks that you've come in on the past. So thanks again for joining us, Will. You've done a couple of these and we're always appreciative of your time.
Right. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you, Zach, and thank you, ATS, for organizing this. It's an awesome opportunity for us to get our message out there and show people the tools that we have to offer and talk about the great products that we manufacture as well. So I know I've been with A.O. Smith since 2006, so that's about 17 years now, and mainly focusing on commercial hot water systems. And I think I've probably run into most of the situations that are, kind of puzzling and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that we're here to help, be a sounding board, even to just discuss projects and make sure we get the right equipment. I know we talk here, it's a commercial domestic sizing little seminar. We cannot possibly get through everything that we need to in this short time that we have. So I am going to focus on commercial restaurants. I find that's a really big part, and try to make this really easy for everyone to use one of the tools that we have here. So, but first, as I mentioned, we're going to talk just a little bit about the types of domestic hot water systems, and I'm going to compare a lot to tankless, because that seems to be like a growing product. We make tankless water heaters as well as tank type water heaters. So which is better? And that's something that I don't know if that's the right word to use. What is better for your application, maybe? With that, I just wanted to say just briefly what A.O. Smith and where we've been. It started in 1874, and A.O. Smith, that stands for Arthur Oliver, and he was the founder of this great company. And there's a whole bunch of brands showing on this slide here that you may recognize. A.O. Smith has recently purchased giant water heaters, was in the news, and I guess a little bit some time ago. Lochinvar is a brand that you would use. The Lochinvar brand is mainly there for the heating side. For A.O. Smith. So whenever you need heating boilers, then we're going to refer you to Lochinvar. So to discuss the type of systems, as I mentioned, we have tank type water heaters, and we have tankless, and we also have hot water circulators and storage tanks, which you may commonly know as a boiler. We call them hot water circulators for domestic use. So with hot water heaters, you can build out your system, and there's some advantages. They go in and out of boiler rooms, fit through doorways, maybe more so in some of these larger buildings. But the real advantage of having storage is so that you have lower energy use to meet your demand. So sometimes I guess I kind of look at it like if you had a Tesla car and you didn't have batteries and you just relied on a solar panel to run that car, it's not going to work. So the same with water heaters. We have stored water to get you through that high draw, those temporary spikes. The storage is there. One thing with the water heater, the water goes in the bottom and comes out the top. There is no pressure, no restriction. So we have considered zero pressure drop against a water heater or a storage tank, because you're not running directly through a heat exchanger. It's just running into a tank and out. So your restriction is your plumbing, size of your plumbing that you have. So the more storage you have, then you do reduce cycling on equipment. We generally don't like to see water heaters cycle more than 6 times per hour. So trying to find the right amount of storage is what we're going to work on here. So when we size storage tanks, it's based on, we use ASHRAE, and they have and I think the way to describe it is probable fixture hourly use. So for example, they assign a flow rate for a fixture. So like a single pot sink in a restaurant, they say 30 gallons per hour. They don't say per minute flow rate. That would be fixture unit, and we would use, there's 2 different methods there. So we're going to talk about those. The tankless. So in our tankless, you are using a lot of energy to instantly heat the water because you don't have storage. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more as I go through here, but tankless are capable of high flow rates, but you just have to put a bunch of tankless units together to achieve your maximum flow rate. So for example, the one tankless commercial heater we're showing there has a flow rate, will allow at a 120 degree rise. So it's assuming you're going in, the water's going in at 40, going to 120, an 80 degree rise. You will find that each tankless water heater will let 4.75 gallons per minute of hot water flow through it. That's it. So that's no problem. I got one faucet open and it's using, say, 4 gallons a minute. And then I go and open another faucet that wants to flow 4 gallons a minute. I'm going to see a considerable drop in flow. So that's where we need to size more units to attain that. So our tankless units are capable of 185 degree water. I can set that right on the screen. They do have some safety stops so that people don't go and crank it up and possibly hurt people with this high temperature water. So there is a little bit of a manual read there to get it to go to 185, but anyhow, they do go to 185. And obviously tankless, does have some space saving to some degree. At some point in time, when you start needing multiple units, it might be more practical to use a storage tank and a boiler, or just a couple of tank type water heaters. And then, as I mentioned, fixture units are what we use for tankless. It's a different sizing method for tankless than it is for tank type water heaters. And I spoke about the circulating system. So the advantage of this is we can build our system out however we want to. In some cases, I've seen the storage tank sitting out in the warehouse because we can put 3,000 gallons of storage with the hot water circulator, and we can put multiple boilers together in a separate room. We can build our own system for high capacity type of buildings, because at some point when you're going to do sizing, you're going to find that the tank type water heaters, it's just not practical to use tank type water heaters. It's maybe more practical to use a boiler and storage tank because of the ability to customize your system here. So again, because the water is not, the flow to the building is not running directly through the boiler, it's just going into a storage tank and out of the storage tank, there is a zero pressure drop against your system as well. So you don't have to factor that into anything there. With tankless water heaters, well, some of the considerations you need when you're comparing what type of system, gas or electric, for example. Obviously, some buildings, you just cannot vent a water heater, or you can't get a gas line to that room, especially downtown Toronto. There's some buildings that they just can't, find a way to vent the gas equipment, where they'll be too close to a sidewalk or something. So you have no choice but to go electric. And space saving again, what kind of space you have. Maybe you only have wall space, so the tankless obviously is a good choice there. Maintenance, tankless water heaters tend to need more maintenance than a tank type water heater. They are more susceptible to hard water. I do know in our Toronto area, our hard waterness is about 7 on just under 7, which is considered hard. And with tankless water heaters, in a commercial application where you're using a lot of hot water, it's definitely recommended every year that the heat exchangers be flushed with a cleaning vinegar solution or a tankless flush type of, to get rid of that hard scale buildup. Very important, we stress that every job now, new job, have a thermal expansion tank, properly sized thermal expansion tank. And that's because all systems are considered closed systems, and there's backflow, so that they do not want the city water potentially having your office building water flow back into the city water line. So there's always backflows. So once you have backflows, you have a closed system. And water expands when it gets heated. So 40 gallons of cold water becomes 41 gallons when it's heated. So you got an extra gallon. Where's it going to go? But back to the expansion tank. So we can help you size those as well. There's a couple of little notes I put on there that I find very important. One of them is being able to isolate the expansion tank so that somebody next year could come back and make sure the expansion tank is still working properly. So there's a shut off and a drain valve, so that way you can drain off any water that's trapped between your isolation shut off valve and your thermal expansion tank. And again, that will help in a year from now, just to make sure that the rubber bladder is still working properly or charged properly. You cannot test a thermal expansion tank when there is still city water pressure against the rubber bladder that's inside there. So that's just a recommendation. I know it's not on our piping diagrams, that little shut off and the drain, but I'm also the guy that goes to the job sites and has to, verify that their expansion tank is properly charged, and it's very difficult, impossible to do. You cannot shut off the cold water to a building to drain off the water pressure to test it. So that's my recommendation there. So obviously, the importance of sizing, nobody wants to run out of hot water. So that's probably our number one reason for critical sizing. But we also don't want to oversize the system because, of course, commercial equipment is expensive and bigger tanks radiate more heat and do cost more to operate. So we want to find the right size, and undersized equipment is they don't last. That's one of the main of our concern, especially for warranty, is that the system is sized properly for the application. And good news, we have our Pro Size that can help us pick out this right size equipment. So there are some principles in sizing hot water, and obviously you have to know your volumes and flow rates and temperatures, what temperatures you do require, and your demand periods. You have to identify the frequencies and durations and so forth. And I always like to draw these out on paper myself to understand them. And I'm kind of speaking of a project that's not available on our Pro Size, because our Pro Size program here, you don't really get caught up in this, but I have been into somewhere it's an office building and they have a restaurant in the office building and they also have laundry, and we don't have a Pro Size that covers that sort of situation. So in some cases we have to kind of manually work through these things, and these are the things that we need to know. So what I do is obviously, again, identify the application. We need to develop a user or a usage profile and understand our type of draws that we are dealing with, and look for dump loads or any high fast draws. So my little picture there on the screen is something that was taken from years ago from an A.L. Smith sizing document. And here they've determined that between 6:30 a.m. and 8:30, they need 400 gallons of hot water. So once I know I need 400 gallons of hot water, it's pretty simple what we need to do to figure out what equipment we need to heat that. The challenge is, how did we get to 400 gallons of hot water? So that's where our Pro Size is going to help us, or the ASHRAE sizing documents. So in the case of that picture, it does show 8-hour recovery period before I need another 400, but it's my point is you need to identify this sort of thing. A.O. Smith does not recommend going more than 4 hours on a recovery system. Not sure why, but if I was to pick out equipment, I would need 12 kilowatts to over 8 hours to reheat. So we can figure that out. But once you have it on paper and some sort of drawing or plan, we can figure out our hot water storage and recovery. So in the 2-hour demand period, between whatever I have in storage and recovery, as long as I can get my 400 gallons, obviously my equipment is sized properly. Keep in mind that a water heater, we call it a draw efficiency, is 70% of a water heater has usable hot water. The bottom third of the tank is got cold water going in and is not usable. So in my example, a 100-gallon tank type water heater has 70 usable gallons of hot water before the temperature drops 30 degrees from my set point. So if I was to take this water heater, heat it up to 140, shut off the heater, I could draw out 70 gallons of water, and that 69th gallon of water will have dropped 30 degrees from its set point. And it's interesting, hot water tends to flow up so that the temperature of the water will stay fairly consistent throughout the draw until you kind of get near the end, and it drops off rather quickly. Tankless water heaters, there is no draw efficiency rating. They're considered 100%. 100% of the hot water is usable. When we're sizing a project, we look for dump draws, and dump draws are fast fill, momentary type of draws. So like sinks in a commercial kitchen, they want to fill the sink fast. So we generally put all of that in storage. When we're doing laundry, that first fill we would always have in storage. A Zamboni is a good example. They put about 100 gallons of hot water in a Zamboni, and the Zamboni driver wants to fill that Zamboni fast. They don't want to wait 20 minutes for it to fill. They want to fill it as quick as they can. So the Zamboni would have all of the water in storage, and then I would have enough BTU to have it reheated and refreshed for the next Zamboni fill, maybe a half an hour later or so. Any industrial batch fills would be in storage. And as I said, anything fast fill. Then we look at continuous draws as a little bit different. So in our picture there, they're washing potatoes, and that's like an all-day process. So that would be a continuous draw. So obviously now my system has to be designed to heat the water that I'm using every minute. So like a good tankless water heaters are good for that. When we do continuous draws, our general rule is to have a recovery rate equal to my gallons per minute. And we always put the first 15 minutes of use in storage. The first 15 minutes in storage is there to help the system, the hot water heater, to recognize, yep, my temperature's starting to drop, and then start activating the equipment to heat. So generally 15 minutes helps with that. So if I needed like 10 gallons a minute, then I would times that by 15, and that would be my storage. So the methods of sizings that we use, as I mentioned, ProSize is I think the preferred method that I think everyone here will appreciate and enjoy. We'll do an example of that. There is a orange binder that A.O. Smith has, and it had a bunch of sizing documents in there that explained all sorts of different type of applications, from cements to school to hair salons. Some methodology is there, and those documents are available on hotwater.com, or you can contact Zach or I, and we can send them to you. ASHRAE and ASPE are the methods that we follow. I think they're really the only ones out there that have a method for properly sizing. So our ProSize is based on ASHRAE. And then we also use the modified Hunter's curve for tankless. So, and then again, feel free to contact ATS or us at A.O. Smith to help on your projects, for especially the oddball ones.
Yeah, so, certainly, I'm definitely happy to help with that. Any sort of question on sizing, our team's always available to lend a hand. A couple of quick notes. We had a few questions coming in on a similar topic. How do we get these resources after the fact? Looking for like copies of the presentation and all that. Webinar is being recorded, and there will be a way to view it on our blog. So if you go to atsspec.com and go to the blog, you'll see that there is a copy of the recording. There's the access to those engineering documents from the session that we did last year as well. And any other questions will be addressed to that. Another piece just on some housekeeping side, we had a couple of questions coming in about the CPD hours and your peak program. If you are, in the PEO or any of the other provinces that have similar self-reporting, we'll have a certificate of attendance sent out to all attendees after the fact, so that you can register your hours for, whatever program it is that you need to register for. So just a couple of housekeeping notes there before we dive into the sizing here. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, great, thanks. Sorry, I don't see the question, but thanks for stepping in.
Hey, that's why I'm here. You got me to help you out.
All right, okay. I'll go to our pro size in a second. These are what these documents that I had mentioned that A.O. Smith offers. So like the one there that's up front, industrial plant. It talks about showers and so forth for the employees, and kind of gives you a little bit of tips on what to consider. So they would say in this document, assume all showers would run for 15 minutes after a shift. So it's that we usually put that into a dump draw because of that short requirement or short demand period. But those documents give you great tips on different applications. So when it comes to, and I mentioned earlier, for sizing tank type water heaters, we use a different method than tankless. And on the for tankless water heaters, we use fixture units and probability of all the fixtures running at the same time. So with the tank type water heaters, again, we assign a volume of water for each fixture, then we look at some probability again of all of those running at the same time, and ProSize factors that in there. So with that, I want to talk about restaurants, and I did want to look at the restaurants and break them down into three types of categories of restaurants. So there's your quick service restaurant, like your Starbucks, and even Tim Hortons and McDonald's. They don't tend to wash dishes. More cleanup, more pots and pans and sort of things. So of course their systems are going to be a lot smaller, but ProSize looks after that. Dine-in, mostly, now I think your biggest users of water there are your dishwasher and the cleanup. I have noticed recently that a number of restaurants are turning to self-cleaning ovens, like where they cook chickens and so forth. So you have to watch out for that. Grocery stores, I believe, when they cook offer all those great chickens, their ovens a lot of them are self-cleaning. So that's something kind of new to our industry. Banquet halls, I look at banquet halls a little bit differently than a regular restaurant, because during the banquet time, they usually have two periods. One is for prepping food, and then the other is cleaning up a lot of dishes. So I tend to look at those and size out the cooking portion, and then I also do a sizing for the cleanup portion, and then you would size for the biggest largest system there. So then don't forget the washrooms. And quite often when I get asked to size a commercial kitchen, the fixture that's missed all the time is the pre-rinse hand sprayer that uses a lot of water. So depending on the operator as well. So you got to make a whole list of fixtures. So I put together an example here, and I've just found this seems to be kind of a very typical type of commercial kitchen where they have all of these different fixtures, triple pot sink, single pot sink, dishwasher, pre-rinse. They have a hand sink in the kitchen. They have a hand lav for the men's and one for the women's, mop sink, bar sink, glass washer. So this is my example. And what I did here is I wanted to compare two methods of sizing here. So according to ASHRAE, they would take a triple pot sink and you would have 90 gallons per hour. It would be your recovery rate for that. And because it's a fast fill, I consider it a dump draw. So I would need a 90 gallon water heater. That's not 90 gallons of water. It's a 90 gallon water heater for this. That 90 gallons does include already the draw efficiency. I have a single pot sink in there. It does require 30 gallons of water according to ASHRAE. The dishwasher, I found that the typical ones that I'm using or doing sizing for use 50 gallons of hot water, but you have to know the dishwasher. And I'll show you where you can find some valuable information on all sorts of dishwashers on our ProSize program there. But this is just for my example, the dishwasher, and this fictitious restaurant uses 50 gallons of water per hour. There's a pre-rinse hand sprayer that uses 45 gallons, lavs, glass washer, and I got a mop sink in there. I totaled up 295 gallons per hour of hot water. So really right there is I know that every hour, and my restaurant probably, and I'm sure anybody hopes that they're going to be busy from 5 o'clock right straight through to 11 o'clock. So we if I don't generate 295 gallons of hot water the next hour, I will run low and I will run out. So I know that. Now with the storage, we look at what is the one largest dump draw, and that's the size of water heater that I would have. So I know I show a triple pot sink at 90 and a single at 30. I have a mop sink that does also use a draw, but the likelihood of all of those running at the same time is low, unless you know for certain that they may be filling, there may be 3 triple pot sinks in there. And they might all be used, and of course you're going to have to size it for that, but generally a restaurant would only use 1 sink at a time. So tankless, we calculated out a fixture unit, so I'll show you where I got those numbers. But down at the bottom, if you look, 295 gallons per hour will require 245,000 BTUs of gas heat power to heat that. And if I convert that to kilowatts, I would need a 72 kilowatt water heater to do that. And look at the tankless there. If I had 23 fixture units, and I'm going to convert that and just call it gallons per hour, I would need 1,165,000 BTUs for a gas tankless. And if I was to go electric tankless, which I don't think is even available, 341 kilowatts of instantaneous electric is enormous. So that's why you won't see too many electric tankless commercial water heaters in this sort of capacity. One thing before I move on, just to talk about the dishwashers for a second and what tends to be used mostly in restaurants. I find low temperature chemical rinse dishwashers require 140 degree water. High temp dishwashers usually end up with a built-in booster, so they still require 140 degree water. And rely on an internal booster or an external booster to provide the 180 for the final rinse. I myself don't really recommend using a tank type water heater when you have no chemical rinse or no built-in booster. So your dishwasher requires 180-degree water. There's some issues with that. One is it's difficult for a tank type water heater to be consistent and be able to provide 180-degree water, especially if somebody was just filling a triple pot sink at the time when the dishwasher was calling. It may have a little bit of a hard time of achieving that 180-degree water. According to the National NSF thing, they require the hot water source to be within 5 feet of the dishwasher. And water, the hotter the water, the more corrosive it is. So hot, so going from 140-degree to 160-degree, you double the corrosiveness of hot water. So 180-degree water is a lot more corrosive and harder on your water heater as well. So some of the reasons. Oh yeah, and the mixing valve. So if you had 180-degree water serving the entire restaurant, there is some definite risks there of hot water exposure. So you would have to have a mixing valve on all of the other systems. So
yeah, correct me if I'm wrong here, Will. I think a lot of the models that we do have with A.O. Smith, they're capable of getting up to that temperature.
that's right.
But it would be more for like a high temp flush, if you're thinking of like a healthcare facility. I know there's some provinces that are doing more copper silver ionization, and there's others that do like a high temp flush.
Right.
And that'd be the application for that, where it's a short period of time. You're not holding the water consistently at that temperature. That's asking a lot of the water heater, right?
Sure. There's like a common application. 180-degree water is used like in the dairy barn industry, where they have to flush out the milk lines after they're done, right? So they know like how much hot water is going to be needed for each flush. So we could size a water heater, no problem for that. But go and throw in a triple pot sink at the same time. Now it's just hard to predict, all of the different scenarios. But if I was just designing for the dairy industry, I would have a water heater just specifically for that. And now I can control where my water goes. So our water heaters will do that. And more specific, the electric ones and the tankless might be better for really consistent hot water requirements. There's 3 formulas that I use. So the kilowatts is important because you're trying to figure out how many kilowatts you need to heat so much water. These formulas are available on our website and common on the internet, right? So if you don't happen to have them, but the mixing formula down at the bottom there, that is I use that formula daily for different applications. When somebody says I need 100 gallons of 100-degree water, now I can figure out what percentage of hot I need and what percentage of cold, and that varies depending on my cold water supply temperature, which changes in our climate here, and my hot water temperature. We generally recommend that you set a water heater, and all our sizing is based on 140-degree storage temperature. The 140 is what we really design at, and it just, for that bacteria reasons, 140-degree water doesn't promote the growth of any bacteria. Which is really important for well water, because well water doesn't have chlorine in it and so forth. So, but going back to my restaurant, I did use the ASHRAE, and that's where I got my values to put in my recovery from the ASHRAE documents. For fixture units, I went to the ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve, and I applied those fixture units to each one of my fixture there. And One thing I found is from ASHRAE and restaurants, and when you go and look at, you add up all your fixture units, and then you go to this modified Hunter's curve. So they have different curves for all sorts of different types of buildings. But if you notice the top curve, curve A for restaurants, it starts at 20 gallons per minute. Like, I have 0 fixture units, and they're saying as soon as you say the word restaurant, you're looking at 20 gallons per minute. So if I punch that into my formula, and I mentioned that each tankless water heater is going to produce 4.75 units or 4.75 gallons per minute, I need 5 tankless water heaters to start off my full service restaurant, according to the ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve. So with ProSize, I just wanted to take you right there to our ProSize program.
And while you're getting that switched over, I'll bring up one of the questions that came in from chat, because I'm sure you'll be able to show it here as we go through the ProSize.
Did my ProSize pop up there?
Yep, it's looking good. So they were asking about what is like our default starting point for the DCW temperature. I would assume, most parts of Canada, we look at about 40,
Yes.
40F, unless directed otherwise from the engineers. That kind of your, status quo
Absolutely.
as well?
I use 40, pretty much 40 all the time. I have seen some rare occasions where somebody told me it was 35 degrees, but I'm not sure where they were getting their water from, maybe lake water or something, I don't know, but generally 40 degrees is good. We usually assume 100-degree rise for most of our applications.
Perfect.
Anyhow, I have the ProSize open here, and the nice thing with ProSize, there are all sorts of different applications: apartments, motels, dormitories, and it's in for today. We just can't go through everything, and I'm pretty sure most people, once they see this program, will be able to self-teach themselves how to use this, because it is pretty straightforward. And this program, by the way, is just available on hotwatercanada.ca. It's our Canadian website. And under the tab engineering, you will get to this. And so from here, I think it's for most parts pretty straightforward, but I do want to point out a couple of things here on it. Excuse me. So you have your choice of what type of equipment you want to use. So case of once you put the values in, you can kind of go back. You won't have to re-enter all the values every time. So you can kind of play around with this for a couple of minutes. But so in my application, we're just going to choose water heaters only with no internal or external extra storage. So I have no other tanks, but they do have water heaters with external storage if required. So like you may pick out a water heater with a 120-gallon storage tank. So we also have the commercial tankless heaters here, which it's a little bit different sizing. But anyhow, moving forward, we have our fuel type. So here I can choose between a gas water heater and an electric water heater. These other requirements for low NOx and so forth is mainly California and thanks Utah, and certain parts of our North America have certain low NOx requirements. Most of our product meets that. You can pick ASME approved certified product only. I recommend picking Canada because there are some products in the US that are not available here in Canada. Number of heaters. Some people might choose to put more than one heater just because they want redundancy. Altitude is important for British Columbia areas or those other parts of North America. So you can see we can change the cold water supply temperature here if you do feel that maybe you're in more northern part of the world, then you may want to change it to 35. It will make a slight difference. But because we're doing a restaurant, the load profile, peak demand period, that would be how busy this restaurant's going to be. And I would probably put 5 hours down, like, I don't think there's really much difference between 3 and 5, but this restaurant's going to be busy from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on. Meals served per day. If you know it, it doesn't really make a big difference on the pro size because it's going to pick out equipment here so a dishwasher, for example, that can only use 50 gallons of hot water per hour. That's it. No matter, they could have 1,000 meals served. The dishwasher can only clean up, can flow, so many racks per hour, right? So our sizing is going to consider that, but let's just say for fun, we I don't know, let's just throw in 100 meals. And then my scenario had a single pot sink. I had a triple pot sink in there. Where's my triple one? I had a hand operated sprayer. I had a bar sink in there. I have three lavs. I have 1 mop sink and my dishwasher. So this, you usually you need to know the model of the dishwasher that the facility is going to use. And if you came to me and said, hey, well, we have a commercial kitchen we're working on, can you find out the dishwasher? And if you say, well, we don't know at that point, now at this point, yeah, I guess you can kind of throw in a value there. But I did want to point out, when you go to hit this view equipment list, it will take you to another website that has almost every brand, every manufacturer of dishwasher. Hobart is a good example there's even Mealy in there. They list off most of the models of dishwashers, and you can see what gallon per hour you would put in. But in my case, I'm gonna just 50 gallons seems to be pretty standard for a rack type dishwasher that would be in like a Boston Pizza or something like that. For the bar washer or for the bar dishwasher, I'm going to put 25 gallons a minute. And here's my chance. Like, if you wanted to, you could go and change the temperatures here, and it will give you some notes. But as I mentioned, I don't really recommend the dishwasher or the water heater going to 180 on its own. Just because, again, maybe somebody's going to use the single pot sink, and I have been in a place where they've left the hot water running, and walk away because they're thawing food and constantly, and you didn't factor that into your sizing, right? So they might be struggling to get hot water at that point. But anyhow, so I entered all of that data in. It does allow me to oversize the system. So maybe there's some additional load. You want to build in a little bit of a safety factor, go ahead. But in this case here, it shows me the peak demand is 270 gallons per hour. And if I click on this magic button down here, what it will do is it will take me to some tank type water heaters, some choices. If I click on select for, like, say, the BTH 250 model that we have, it's a 100-gallon water heater, 250,000 BTUs. It will give you some basic information about the water heater. And then as I scroll down, it will take you directly to like some spec sheets, installation manuals, and so forth. There is a selection report, so this will convert it into a PDF document. That will be 2 pages. One will have what you see on the screen, details of the water heater. Page 2 of this document will be your load data that you entered, so you can keep a record of it in there. If I go back to sizing, as I mentioned, I can switch it to an electric water heater, and I didn't have to change any of my data. I could now just hit the select button again, and it will pick out some water heaters for me and some choices. There is also show alternate products, so that would allow you to see some additional choices here. So I use this sometimes, like our DSE model here, it is showing a 65-gallon tank, and I did say to you that I prefer to have a 90-gallon water heater. I guess this is sort of working out some other probability in here, right? So there is a DSE 100 down here. I would prefer to go with the larger volume tank. If you were asking me, I would pick out the larger size, just so that I know that, you know, if they are filling a pot sink, quite often that I got enough hot water in there. It in this case, it didn't pick out. We have some other, these are our industrial grade. As long as you can add up, maybe put 2 of the smaller water heaters in, as long as it totaled 75 kilowatts, you would be okay. And then back to sizing, you can click on the commercial tankless, and the only thing that's going to change, like it now, because it's fixture units, it's going to ask you some other questions, and in the end, if I'll save you from me going through every step here, it will pick out 5 ACT 199 tankless water heaters for this. So Zach, am I back to the presentation? Can you tell?
Yep, you're back to the presentation, sharing it now.
All right, great. There is also on that ProSize, there's a little button there called payback calculator. So there is you can compare it to, like, say it's an older restaurant, and you could enter in like the model of the old water heater, and then put in, you're now putting high efficient, how much water would they be saving. So just as a quick review here, the ProSize gave me a bunch of choices, and I can now pick one of them, and all of these are safe choices. As I mentioned, over on the right there for the tankless, you'll see CT 199 does say 5 heaters. So just a quick this doesn't get into a lot of detail, again, because we're limited for time, but the electric water heater choices that we do have, there are some smaller models, light duty. We build a water heater from 2.5 gallon tank, and we do go up to I think as far as 3,000 gallons, but and the Dell and Den models, they're up to 12 kilowatts, and they've been used in like Starbucks and that sort of type of restaurant. They would have surface mounted thermostats on them, so they're even though they'll go to 180, I wouldn't count on them getting and maintaining 180, because the thermostats themselves have a differential, and that differential could be as much as a 15-degree drop before the thermostat tells to start heating the tank. So if I had it set to 180, it could drop to 165, overnight, and then decide to start, click on and heat up. We would consider those general purpose hot water heaters. The middle of the slide, these go up to 54 kilowatts. There's 3 sizes of them. And the one with the little screen on it, the DVE model is, I highly recommend that for commercial restaurants because it has a different type of thermostat, and if you look on the spec sheet, the DVE is approved for sanitizing rinse water. It has the ability to be adjusted so that if the temperature drops 2 degrees from the set point, it will click on, and the highest temperature setting on these are 190. So you can control temperatures very well with this, and I like them because, you know, one, if anybody has to do any alterations to the temperature or whatever, it's all done from the exterior of the cabinet. Nobody has to open up the cabinet door to do that. It has a programmable feature. It has some diagnostics in it as well. If one of the elements isn't working, it lets the owner know. And then the DSC model was one of the example. It's our industrial grade type of electric water heater. For the gas product, there's a lot of choices. So the BTRs, the ones on the left side of the screen, those are atmospheric water heaters, and they're not really recommended in restaurants. You can't put them in new restaurants as of July 1st this year. You can only put condensing product in, and then so the cyclones are and the tankless are what we consider for light duty commercial. The BTH model is probably our most popular choice. They come from 60 gallon, 120,000 BTUs all the way up to 500,000 BTUs. So you can put a bunch of those together, as I showed you in some earlier pictures. And then we have a large volume type of BTHL model, which would be probably something you'd be using in a banquet hall. So just couple other, you know, little things that are on our website. There is all our spec sheets and cross-reference tools. And you want to check out the date, you know, how old is a water heater? You can put that in there, and it'll tell you when the warranty expires on it anyhow. So our manuals, online training. There are videos on our training site, so anybody's welcome to go there. You do have to create an account for yourself, but there's videos on our heat pump water heaters, on our cyclone. So if you do want to, they're very short little modules, kind of like short little YouTube videos that will get you maybe a little more comfortable with the product. And we also have a product selector tool for residential applications. So that's I think a fabulous tool. I usually send it to the homeowner to fill it out, because they're the ones that are going to know how they're planning on using their hot water better than anybody. How many showers they want back to back, what's the longest length of shower, what's the size of your tub, that sort of thing is all factored in, and our product selector tool looks after that. So I just at that, I know we're right at the end, and I did thank you for listening, and for any help that you need, you can contact us directly or ATS directly, and between ATS and ourselves here at A.L. Smith, we will work with you and find the right solution for your project.
That's great. Thanks, Will. Yeah, that was a lot of detail there, and I know we're right up at the end there. So if anyone needs to drop off, I appreciate your time now. We'll take just a couple of minutes here just to wrap up, answer some questions, and also show you where, once you've sized your water heater, how you can get a spec put together for your selection. So I'll take over screen sharing for a second, and I'm sure there will be a few questions that come in, so we'll keep an eye on those as they come. One thing I wanted to bring up, we had a few questions about, you know, how can I watch this recording after the fact? All of our recorded webinars from these ATS University series are on atspec.com in our blog. So if you go to atspec.com, there's the blog. There's also our learning hub where you have the ATS knowledge base. And we're revamping this a little bit. It'll be cleaner in the future. But if you want some help on understanding acid neutralization tanks, barrier-free codes in your area, anything like that, feel free to view that or reach out to me directly and I'll be able to help out. Once you are in, everyone has access to the atsspec.com and create your account on Spec Tool. It's a free account for all sorts of people in the design sphere. You'll be able to create a quick spec where all you have to do is put in a simple title, create a project and add many different fixtures into your selection. So if you were just creating a simple water heater, then you could call it water heater in a quick spec. If you're creating a more of a full project, you know, you're doing a full restaurant where you need the bathroom selection, your water heaters, your drainage, your backflow, all those different pieces, then you want to create a full project. Or if you're creating many of those, maybe you do have a Starbucks or whatever your favorite, you know, a Joey's restaurant chain, you're doing 50 Joey's or 30 Joey's this year, you could create a master, and then all you have to do is copy and paste from that selection on our sample. So we have an A.O. Smith webinar master here that I created ahead of time with all the products that we're talking about today. So we've got that BTH 250 that came up in our sizing. Maybe you wanted a larger volume version and our DRE or DVEs and the rack system. You can envision this as including all of your fixtures as well, anything else that's going into that Joey's restaurant or whatever other standard template selection you have. Find the project that you've already set up and copy that over. And that'll put that into your project file. So here I'm looking at the project file here. There's that A.O. Smith webinar sample project that I talked about. And here's the fixtures that were copied in a matter of seconds. Now, one of the things that does come up regularly is, you know, maybe you have something like this where it's an unsized version of the water heater. We just have a DVE 120, but we haven't selected the, you know, the 75 kilowatts that we said, or particular sizing system. Maybe we have the DVE as our standard for the restaurant, but we've sized it up on Pro Size. We realized we actually need the DSE. We could go in, hit edit, and this will allow us to select a new water heater or configure the water heater that we're looking at. So we could go in and configure their particular kilowatt rating. We could then search for our specific water heater as well. So if we want to search by storage type or the tankless type, we could search by storage capacity and use our slider to affect the ratings. Or we could search by any sort of keyword that we are looking for. So that DSE, and it's a DSE 100, which we can configure right on the system. We need the 75. We're going to select a 240 or 480 with the 3 elements, 3-phase. And there we go. And now we can add that to drawing. So Will mentioned that there's the spec sheet that you can get on the A.O. Smith Pro Size software. You know, that's great. That gives you this unconfigured spec sheet so that you can look at the product and see all the different clearances and the different recoveries and all the details. What using the spec tool allows you to do is, instead of getting that generic spec sheet, get a configured product and then download it in more than just the one manufacturer spec sheet format. You could download it in a long spec in Word. We could download it in a short spec, a fixture schedule, the Revit files, the manufacturer spec sheets, your submittals, all sorts of different formats. And these are configured formats to the product that you have selected for your project. So it's a little bit more customized, a little bit more detailed, and importantly, it is always updated and accurate because it's a living system. When we set the tender date for this project, or you build your master online, let's say that A.O. Smith goes and discontinues this model down the line, or you have those atmospheric water heaters that Will mentioned in your master file. In July, when those are no longer available, the ATS system, it's a smart living system that will update you and let you know, hey, this product's not appropriate, or this product's discontinued, and we recommend this product instead. Trying to help prevent change notices and keep your specs as accurate as possible. I'll show a couple of the other formats really quick. I pre-downloaded because I'm always assuming that I'm going to be running short on time. You can see this is the manufacturer spec sheet version, gives you a nice table of contents and those manufacturer spec sheets we talked about. But if you want the configured spec sheet, that's our submittal format with the configured solutions that we went and selected or that was selected in our master. So if you have any detailed questions on the spec system, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to spend a little bit more time with you on it. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Will. That was a fantastic presentation. We always get a big audience when we have you in talking about sizing. I think everyone's very interested in the tips and tricks that you accumulated over the years. And then if you have any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out. We will have the automated attendance sent out likely by the end of the week. So if you need your certificate of attendance for those PEO programs, we'll send those out, as well as links to the recording. If you need help sizing your next project, feel free to reach out to me, zach@atsspec.com, or Will Kublis, wkublis@hotwater.com, and we'll be happy to get you sorted. Have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Someone mentioned that this was scheduled until 2 p.m. So I don't know how that scheduling got affected, but this is only a 1-hour session. If you would like more detail, I'm sure that you could reach out to us and we'll be happy to go into the next restaurant application. Absolutely. We'll talk water heater all day long.
Yeah.
So if you want more detail, feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to spend another hour with you and transfer some more knowledge. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.
Take care, Zach. Thanks again. Thanks for organizing this. Great job.
Talk to you soon, Will.
As usual.
Well, as always, great to have you.